Hi there, I'm Sarah Kinzer, and I'm coming to you on behalf of Pastor Julie and the Children's Ministry at Harrisonburg First Church of the Nazarene. Pastor Julie's vision for children's ministry is to partner with our families in the spiritual development of their children. And in light of that, we wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the position our families find themselves in right now. This is uncharted territory for all of us. So we've compiled a list of 3 tips that we hope will help you handle kids and social distancing in a tech-driven world. Before I tell you those tips, I want to remind you of this. When you hear me say the phrase, these days, I want you not to just hear me referencing what's going on in our world, but I also want to remind you that it's Lent, the season in the church where we think about obedience and sacrifice and abandoning self for the sake of others. I think sacrifice and abandoning self absolutely tie into how we respond to the coronavirus. So with that said, I want to begin with our first tip for handling kids and social distancing in a tech-driven world. First, do not feed the fear. My daughter came home from school on Friday pretty scared. She was nearly in tears over the idea of any of us leaving the house because she was sure that one of us was going to get sick and maybe even die. She was in information overload. It's my responsibility to help her figure out what to do with her worry. The first way that we can help our kids handle the anxiety that many of them are feeling is to turn off the news when they're in the room, or if you choose to leave it on, commit to having calm conversations with them every time they're exposed to information about the virus. Words like death toll and fatal are scary to me. I can't imagine what they sound like to a child. Also, remember our series in January on fear. In Kid City, we taught Luke 8, starting at verse 22, the story of Jesus calming the storm. We connected it to 2 Timothy 1:7 and showed them how we have not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I suggest that you review this story this week. We gave the children coloring books with verses about facing fears. Why not pull these out and work through them together? 2, set solid screen time boundaries. Oh yes, y'all nodding with me. Those little guys need limits and boundaries. We're all on board with this one. Except if you're a parent who's working from home this week, or you're a parent who actually has to work more hours because you're in the healthcare field, or you're just a parent who is trying to figure out what to fill your children's time with since all their activities are canceled. It is really easy to plug them into some sort of device, and even with the best of intention, one show becomes 2, one round of Fortnite becomes 5, and all of a sudden they're standing there looking at you going, what's for dinner? So you're still with me, and I see you. You're like, yes, Sarah, set solid screen time boundaries. Good tip. I knew that one, and I agree. So hold on to how you agree with me when I say the next thing. This tip for limiting screen time, for setting healthy screen time boundaries, is not about setting rules and timers for our kids alone. I'm suggesting that this is a tip for you, the adult. But I have to work. Please, by all means, get your work done. But I need to check to see what's going on in the news. Okay, by all means, check the news. But I have to use Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Messenger and text to make sure that everyone I love and also Tom Hanks and his wife are okay. Sure, by all means, check on your loved ones. But we all need to establish healthy boundaries. I'm being completely honest with you when I say that this is a struggle for me. It is way easier for me to scroll through my feed than it is to let my kids come help me in the kitchen. And so it certainly is going to be a focus for me as a parent in the coming days. I'm not suggesting that you need to hover over your kids 24/7 or to completely disengage from all technology. That's not really reasonable. But we can be intentional in planning our own screen time so that it coincides with the time that the kids are outside so that we aren't exposing them to scary news. We can be intentional to use screen time with them in ways that are encouraging them, like calling together to check on loved ones or watching a movie together. As Pastor Adrian said in his message on Sunday, we don't have a technology problem, we have a worship problem. This is a really good time to evaluate how we interact with technology and ask, is it a help or a hindrance? Ultimately, is the way we're using technology pleasing to God? And our third tip is focus on this not as a time of limitation, but of opportunity. We can be tempted by social distancing to focus on all sorts of activities that we're missing out on. But please remember the verse that we've been looking at lately. Hebrews 12, 1-3 says, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." You hear that? For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. The cross wasn't the joy. The nails and the whips and the crowns, that's not the crown of thorns, that's not the joy. No, our salvation and the reconciliation of mankind to God was the joy, and it was for that reason that Jesus endured the cross. Focus on joy. Do not grow weary or lose heart. Teach your children in this way as well, and look for and act on opportunities where you are and with your child to serve those around you. Our intention was to begin teaching the story of Easter this morning in Kid City and Tiny Town, but plans change, and we're hoping, just like we want to partner with you in the spiritual formation of your children, that this week you'll partner with us by beginning to introduce the Easter story. If you check out the parent guide that accompanies this video, you'll find a variety of resources and links which will help you to begin to walk with your child through the story of Easter. I'm looking forward to hearing about how this time, these days, were the days that you and your children became closer than ever, that these days were the days that your child really began to face their fears and overcome them, and that these days were the days that you and your child together really latched on to the call of God for HFCN. That is the call to go. God bless you.